Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mr. Sinclair. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good. Where you been up to this morning? 10K run?
No, we were up about 4 o'clock, half four. So I've been working until about an hour ago. Just taking the dog for a walk, had some breakfast. Oliver and Stacey are upstairs getting dressed. Bit of golf a bit later. Stacey's going over to her mum and dad's.
Lovely. And so, Wentworth, how
Yeah,
was that?
very good. Thank you very much to the go-to group and Michael for inviting me along. I don't think I embarrassed myself too much, or the name of golf too much, but yeah, lovely course, lovely course. Of course, on your approach to Wentworth, if any estate agent starts going on Rightmove and seeing what the homes are worth, so the first one I came across was sold at 15 million.
How much?
15 million.
So, what did you offer?
Oh, it was sold, Stephen. They'd already done a good enough job, so I've missed out on that one. So I didn't dare keep looking. I didn't dare keep looking, but yeah, lovely course, great day. Weather held out for us. But what was really eerie was the day before. So I stopped over at Heathrow at the Premier Inn there, and that's a really eerie place at the minute. You can get around really easily. I mean, the journey from Leicester to Heathrow would sometimes take 2.5 hours at the time of day that I left. I think I did it in about an hour and 45, hour and 50, which is what the sat nav says straight away. So traffic, the amount of planes taking off was still low. The bar was empty. The hotel seemed empty. It just seemed a bit of a ghost town, really.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens next week when all the schools go back, whether there's a massive
Yeah.
difference in traffic. Wherever. Morning, Jim. Thanks very much for joining us. Hi, Jeremy. Thanks very much for joining us. So, if you got any questions for Luke and myself, please put them in the comment section. Please tag some other people in. Let's get people up early on a Sunday listening to Luke Sinclair and all his wisdom.
And what about you, Mr. Brown? What have you been up to so far this weekend?
Morning, James. How are you? I broke a record yesterday,
Yeah.
or my own record. So I walked 30,000 steps yesterday.
Well done.
Um, and I've done my 10,000 steps this morning already, and I've done my litter collection. So
Yeah.
I've got into the habit now of picking up rubbish
Yeah.
2 or 3 times a week because it frustrates me every day I walk to see so much rubbish, and it's ridiculous. And I know, Jim, I think you feel exactly the same way. I know when you're walking on the beaches in Leven and the lovely part of Scotland, the amount of rubbish there is disgraceful. So
How
it makes me
many
feel a little bit better just
disposable
picking up the rubbish.
How many disposable face masks did you find on your travels?
Oh, face mask, gloves. But there's so much. There's like alcohol. So beer cans, bottles, absolutely everywhere.
What about those little gas canisters that all the
Yeah,
women
they're
seem to be?
they're absolutely everywhere as well.
Mm,
So it's fine. So let's talk about our week. I just want to thank Peter Ambrose last week for being a fantastic guest, and also Greg Love for turning up, and also Stephen Hayter we mentioned last week. And he sent me a massively long email about his thoughts on conveyancing and stuff. And one of the things we talked about was maybe acting on both sides. And here's what he said. So Luke was right from our business point of view that they are under the greater scrutiny. Each case has a client for whom we are acting, and we should be protecting the interests of them both. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be done, but there should be a lot less help about how much quicker it would be. Okay.
mm,
So that was interesting. He said, I would also echo the time that is being spent on the phone waiting for mortgage redemptions. I'm afraid that's highly unlikely that a lender is going to tell the agent what the outstanding mortgage is. It would be privy to their borrower, their broker registered on their panel, and their conveyancer also registered on the panel. It will also need to be accurate on the day of completion, not on the day of listing, for obvious reasons. So I think the point there is at least give all your redemption details over to your lender, to your broker, to your solicitor, so that they're fully aware, and hopefully that will save time, and
Absolutely.
make a difference. So, how was your week?
Yeah, very, very good. We've got three new starters starting with us on tomorrow, Tuesday. Obviously, bank holiday Monday, so it's not tomorrow. But so Monday, what do we do Monday? So Monday, we took the team out for a meal. So we had a socially distanced team meal at the local Indian restaurant on small tables. So we had 27 of us go out to that as a bit of a thank you for all their hard work at the moment.
Brilliant. And
Um,
can I ask you a couple of
mm,
questions on that?
mm.
From how frequently, as a business owner, is would you do something like that? And your team's reaction for them being thanked, how do they feel about it?
Um, I believe it goes down really, really well. I don't know if any of them are watching this morning. I know sometimes Ryan pops up and Rade pops his head up, and Glenn, but I think it might be Meggy's birthday today, tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow, so happy birthday
Happy
for
birthday,
tomorrow.
Maggie, for tomorrow.
Ring Glenn up. Um, but yeah, I don't. I think it's good for morale with the team. It's a good way of saying thank you. It's an opportunity for people to maybe mix with people that they haven't necessarily spoken to in a while on a casual basis rather than on a formal basis within the team. And also, we invited our new starters along as well. So Chris and Charlotte, they came along and joined in, and they found it really beneficial as well. So we paid for the food, paid for the drinks. Everyone didn't go too over top on the drinks at the meal stage. Maybe the after meal stage when they went on to various other venues. But I was tucked up in bed for 8:30. So
Of course.
uh,
I expect nothing else from you, Mr.
I
Sinclair.
won't even tell you what time we went to bed last night.
7 o'clock.
Earlier than that.
No way.
Yeah, I
Oh my
think it
good
was half
God.
past. I think it was 6:30. We were tucked up in bed.
I don't want to know. Okay, that's too much detail for Sunday morning. So just we've got Kate Wiscombe. So thanks very much, Kate, for watching. Got Gareth JPEG that's just joined us as well. So thanks for watching this morning. Appreciate it. Give Luke some likes and hearts and shares, and tag a friend in, an agent in that's going to benefit from this.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So we got the new starters. Obviously went to Wentworth. Had an interesting meeting with a potential seller and what could be a potential landlord in the future. They've been reading the blog that I do. I put a couple of articles out, maybe twice a week, and uh, and interestingly, I've known this person probably nearly 30 years on and off. But my original interaction was when I was about 8 or 9. I washed his car. So during the summer holidays, we used to go around car washing around the estate that we lived on and on the industrial estates. And some days we'd earn about £100 between us, and that was back in what 1990, 1991. So £100 then. Well, I sound really old now, but £100 then
A
was
lot
a
of
lot of
money.
money to us. Was a lot of money to us. We'd go down to Wilkinson's, we'd buy our sponges and things. But yeah, so I met them on Friday. That was interesting. They wanted some advice on what they should do with their home and extending it, and then looking, can people still make? And one of the questions was, can a landlord that doesn't own anything at the minute, so a would-be landlord, can they still make money with property? Which I
Okay.
suppose is quite an interesting question at the moment.
Okay. And actually, morning, Simon Gates. Thanks for watching it. And actually, we had a question in from Zoe as well, which we would touch on in a second. Hi, Phil. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. So we have a conversation about that. Can I ask you a couple of questions? So again, there's going to be people on here, and I had a question this week from somebody to say, I don't know whether I should be recruiting. In this market, and again, Jim asked us another question as well, which we come on to and we'll try and answer. Or Jim, if you're up for it, maybe we'll try and get you on the show and we just discuss it. So Jim, let us know. Put a comment in there, yes, if you want to come on, and we will get you on and we will discuss your question. And Zoe, likewise.
He's just tagged about half of the
half
country
of
into
half of Scotland. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate the tag. Thank you, James. Appreciate it for tagging Paul and Mark in. Very grateful. So please share it with other people. So a couple of things. So going back to the recruitment then. So one of the questions I had this week, should we be looking at taking people on? And obviously, you are. What's the reason
yeah,
why? And actually, saying that, in fairness to you, I remember having a conversation. You decided to take people on end of last year from memory.
yeah.
What was the reason for that? And again, coming back to this person, would you be, if you've got, an office of maybe 3 or 4, should you be taking people on now? Or are we literally in, in 2-3 months' time, that's it. That's the end of the market. Make hay while the sun shines.
Obviously, everyone knows their own business, so it's difficult to answer it 100% for each business owner. But the way I look at it is that we're extremely busy and we're not giving the levels of service that we should be giving, and we want to give better service, and we need. And as much as technology goes, technology can't replace a lot of that personal contact that we have with clients. So yeah, I firmly believe the answer is yes, and there's a great pool of talent out there at the minute. One example is a lady that we're taking on, interviewed. She's just been let go by a local agent. The hours perfectly suit us, so not full time, but very close to. Um, and I remember something that Josh Fegan said. I think it was Josh Fegan. It might have even been Tom. Um, in that looking at part-time working and also employing mums, because mums are probably the most organised people out there because they've got to be, juggling husbands, partners, the house, absolutely everything. They're the kind of like the secret managing director of the family, really, aren't they? So, and I think. And I do think she's going to be fantastic. At the same with we've got this fantastic lettings manager joining us. He's got previous lettings and sales experience in a normal market. Would we have come across that kind of talent? Possibly not. But there's certain things that have gone on maybe within businesses that have made people a bit uneasy about who they work for, as well. But also it's maybe helped people realise that, well, actually I want to expand my knowledge. I want to go for a company that's going to maybe invest in me or invest in the training, or there's a good. And one of the questions, well, twice I had it recently. One is, what do I get out of working at Knightsbridge? So I've only been asked that question twice. The second time was this week. Previous times that was a lady that's joining us on the 4th. But a lot of hers priority was the culture and the feel that it is within the organisation. So when someone's asking you questions like that, then you know they're a bit of a keeper and a bit of a stayer. I even had a presentation on the company to me this week. So someone had gone to the lengths of developing a PowerPoint presentation on things like Google reviews, did a SWOT analysis, looked at the opportunities that we could have as a business. They've gone into that level of detail for us, which was absolutely fantastic.
Okay. And again, one of the things, and I heard it this week from somebody, not just you, where somebody had sent in some information, but what was very telling was their presentation and their spelling left in
Yeah,
a lot to be desired.
yeah,
Which is on one hand, it's fantastic that they show the initiative for
yeah,
doing that, which is great. But sadly, I don't think obviously it did them any favors, because if they're doing that to you, what are they going to
yeah,
be like doing it with your customers? So maybe actually that may be a little trick when you're interviewing people or before they come and see you, is just to say, look, I'm sorry, I've got to go. Would you be kind enough just to send me a quick summary of what we've discussed? Can
yeah,
you send it within 10 minutes? And just see actually how they deal under pressure with
yeah,
that as well.
yeah. But no, you're right. You're right because as good as the presentation was that we had, there were a couple of issues with it. One was spelling, an obvious spelling for key terms that we use within our business and all the industry, and it's you talk about marginal gains, and uh, it's just those, if those little final tweaks had been there, then perhaps the outcome would have been that little bit different. So it is in that last millimeter, last centimeter, last inch, last word, and just proofreading that presentation. But again, can we relate to that as a business then, if we're sending out a marketing report or evaluation letter and we've got someone's name spelt wrong, we have got grammar errors in it. So is it then a potential lesson that, okay, is this a wake up call to say that we need to go back through our documents, go through your website, even get a proofreader to go through your website? Because if you've got a glaring error on your website, could that be putting people off? Because if it's put me off employing someone, could it put a vendor off employing you to sell their home? So, and again, proofreaders aren't expensive, but someone that's not tunnel focused on having to do this day in day out and a fresh pair of eyes would probably really reap rewards. So I've even given myself an idea there.
Oh, brilliant. There you go. Fantastic. I'm so pleased you joined me at 9 o'clock. You better write it down before you forget, because I know what I'm
Yeah,
like. So, Mario, thanks very much for joining us. David, thanks very much for joining us. Really grateful. Steve Horsley, congratulations. Horrible for me to say it. Arsenal won another trophy, two trophies in August 2020. Jokes are already out about Spurs, and the season hasn't even started yet. So well done, Arsenal. Anthony John Ellis, thanks very much for joining us. Dawn, thanks very much for joining us as well. Really grateful. So please tag your colleagues in, share it, give Luke some hearts, love. Um, and then the other thing I wanted to come back to you on is you discussed blogs.
mm.
And you said you send out a couple of blogs uh, twice a week. What's going in these blogs to these people? Where do you get all the content?
So the content, get it from a number of sources. One is Mr. Watkin, or Sir Chris, of the estate agency Land. So Chris does some really good, useful blogs about your local property market. Jerry Lyons,
Yeah,
again, another lord of the estate agency world. So good, some really good content there. And again, even with Jerry, so he's put into words. So something that would probably take me ages to write. He just kind of sums it up really nicely. But equally, there was obviously that announcement on Friday about the eviction process going to be taking longer. So he quickly put together an article that their members or the subscribers to him could actually share out and be first mover advantage there with their clients. You've also got estate agent content for you as well. I know she's been with Chris and been on the sofa with Chris, and there's a website there where you can, but that's where you can choose your articles, or you can write your own. Again, Chris gives you free tools to actually write your own articles if you really want to. So, and I know Michelle, she's very good at writing her own articles, and some of us aren't. So, you haven't necessarily, you know what to say, but sometimes you can't put it into a nice into a nice blog, but using the services of Jerry, Chris, estate agent content for you, then it allows you to get on with your normal day job, which is best selling the vendors. But it's about regularity and making sure you're doing. I find 2 to 3 articles varied a week would uh, get good levels of readership.
Yeah, and actually, I was just walking. Whilst I was walking, I was listening to a audio book, "The Life of Sir Alex Ferguson,"
Oh
and
yeah,
it's written by a guy called Damien Hughes. So I've got some breaking news for everybody that Damien Hughes is going to be a guest on my lunchtime learnings, and he's part of the Peak Performance. In fact, I don't think it is High Performance Podcast. So if you've ever come across that or you haven't, go onto iTunes and listen to it. That's absolutely fantastic. And again, it's all about consistency. And they were talking about Sir Alf Ramsey when England
yeah,
won the World Cup in '66. And it was all about repetition, and practicing. And one of the things that Alex Ferguson was saying was put yourself in the shoes, give yourself certain situations. So 5 minutes ago, Sean Adams is joining, Mr. Implementer. How are you? Nice to see you. Um, and he was talking about, they were practiced for situations, right? We're 1 goal down with 5 minutes to go. How do we deal with that pressure? And one of the things that I would like to discuss, and we got Jim who's waiting patiently in the background. So thank you, Jim. I'm coming to you. I do see you there. So we will bring you on in a sec. But one of the things that I think agents can do, and I would like to discuss this in a bit, is practicing objections. So whilst we talk to Jim, what would be great for everybody watching, and we're really grateful that you're spending Sunday breakfast with us. Can you just write in the comments the list of objections that you currently get, your colleagues get, from whether it's your vendor, your applicants, your landlords or tenants, because that'd be great. And, then we can build something up and we can share some ideas on here, which is what this is all about. So bear with me one sec. I'm going to add Jim. Jim,
Hi
how are
guys.
you?
Yeah, great, thanks. You hear me
Good.
okay?
Yeah, really well. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. Very grateful. I don't think you met Luke before, have you? You met each other?
Briefly, at a function that we were at, I
yeah.
said
Very
hi.
briefly, possibly mainly virtually.
Yeah, probably, more than likely.
So, Jim, you run a very successful agency up in Scotland.
I do.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be joined by your hens very soon as well.
Yeah.
And you sent us a couple of questions last night, so we're going to get your answers first. Morning, Richard. Thanks very much for joining us. So, Jim, do we really think the market is going to drop, considering all the indicators are telling us otherwise? I've had an offer more than 30k over the valuation. So, if I start with you, what do you think?
I'm going to go against the tide. I actually think there's not going to be that much a significant drop. I mean, you guys in England, obviously your market's quite volatile. In Scotland, it's quite stable. It tends to consistently move up. But the indicators for me are credit availability, interest rates at record low, and the only flying ointment is really the employment levels. But as you see, as one industry is laying off, another industry is taking on, which is the home shopping industry and the home delivery industry. I mean, there's 16,000 jobs created at Tesco's, for their home delivery. So there's a mobility of labour happening there. So that might actually compensate for the changes in the market. And, I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as we think.
Okay, Luke, ideas, thoughts?
Absolutely, and like what Jim said, you've got the negative about all these employees laying off staff, but then equally, like with the home shopping, but also I think people are starting to become a little bit more entrepreneurial. So we're seeing, look around you in your own hometown. So in our local pub car parks, they're absolutely full of greengrocers now. So where you can go out and you can buy your kind of homegrown veg, and okay, they maybe been down the wholesalers, but people are being quite entrepreneurial. And with the home delivery market, I can't remember what it was with Tesco's, but something like 10,000 people that they want to recruit
Yeah.
and add in. Audi still want to open branches. Co-op still want to open branches throughout the country. So um, I think again, Josh Vegan talks about it. Every market creates a market. So regardless of whether or not the market is booming, that creates a market. But also, if the market does adjust, then that's going to create it. Then that's going to create its own market. As a business, we've got to be a bit like a tugboat and easily be able to adapt. Whereas that sometimes the bigger organisations, which are a bit like the oil tanker analogy, they're going to take a lot longer to adjust, and that's where the small business owners and the ones that have really got the finger on the pulse with what's happening will be able to make that adjustment really quickly. And I think that's going to be huge. That and don't be prepared to adjust your don't be prepared to adjust your sales quite quickly if you need to.
Okay, a lot. I agree. Control the controllables. What can you control? Okay, so people still want to move. Still, people still want to sell. I think there's 11 reasons why people need to move. If anybody want those 11 reasons, put a comment in there, and I will send you an email with those, or send you a direct message with what they are. So for me, control what you can control. Know who your buyers are. Know who your people that need to sell. Work with them, because there's always going to be opportunities, and it's just finding those people. Mike, thanks very much for joining us this morning. I've also sent you a link, so if you want to click on and join in, you can have your say. Mike's an exceptional consultant, travels up and down the country. So Mike's question: why should I buy now, as it looks likely the recession will deepen, unemployment will rise, and house prices will have to adjust downwards? Okay, and that's what's looking out there. And actually, if you look at what the media is, the media will portray negative news.
Yeah.
But again, I think it comes back to, and Jim, you're fantastic at this, and Luke, you're fantastic about this, making it local with all the videos that you do, actually telling people what's happening on the ground rather than what's happening nationwide. So Jim, I know you wrote, when you kindly answered the question, you said, I've just had another offer more than 30,000 over the home report, which is great. So it shows at the moment there is demand and people still want to buy. Now, nobody knows what's going to happen. I think the one thing we can all agree on is March at the moment is going to be absolutely mayhem next year. Absolutely crazy. And as we spoke and we said last week, now, and I'm going to keep on reiterating it, you really got to have conversations with your vendors that now they've got to get themselves sale ready, and you've really got to have conversations with your buyers to make sure they're going to get mortgage ready, because as Peter said last week, Stephen said last week, Greg said last week, I think it's going to be absolute mayhem and carnage in March. People, and as agents, I really think we need to educate people about that. Okay, so Jim,
Well, there's already
have you answered your
there's
own
already
question?
talks.
Go on, sorry,
So
Luke.
just on that point, yeah, sorry, just on that point, there's already talks with some solicitors that I've spoken to this week, where they're come January they're going to start sending waiver forms out with their instruction packs to say, look, we can't guarantee that you're going to get it through by end of March. So the solicitors are going to be on the case with managing vendors' expectations, buyers' expectations, to say, look, we can't guarantee that this is going to happen by March. So again, we came back to that whole education process when I did a Facebook Live with a local solicitor, and I think at the time it was 218 days or whatever it was to that deadline. And when you start working back, it doesn't leave a lot of time to start planning for the actual sale process for your vendors, and those ones that still want to get top dollar, top pound, need to start planning it now. But what are we doing to educate those clients in our local areas?
Okay, so Jim, I just want to ask you a question. So, Andy, thank you for joining us. Nice to see you. And yes, Jim does look more good looking than you. So that's very kind of you to say that. Mincy, thanks very much for joining us. Appreciate it. Again, please, if you can, what be kind is if can you write the objections you and your colleagues daily get. So again, we can have those all up and we can talk about that. Jim, I just want to discuss one thing with you whilst I got you and before we answer your other question as well. You've been on a process where you have been doing video after video after video non-stop.
Yeah.
How is that? Why did you get on that journey? And Mike Day's joining us as well. So why did you go on that journey? And what results have you seen because of it? Mike, you look lovely. Thanks for joining us. We come to you in a sec. I just want to know where the Hornet shirt is.
It's in the wash.
It's in the wash. Okay. I thought you wore it permanently. So,
It's
Mike,
in
we
the
come
wash,
back.
like my hair.
So we're getting Andy Overman very jealous at the moment. Jim, videos. You've been doing it now for how many days in a row?
I think I'm up to about 75.
Wow. And
so,
what's the feedback you're getting from it?
really good, really positive. I mean, it's reaching out to people I don't even know because it's getting shared with people that are coming to me privately and saying this is to want a better word, this is a godsend to me. It's letting me understand where I am and what I need to do to move forward. But it's also for me personally, it's just hone and develop my skill. If anything, if it fell on deaf ears, it would just be me honing and developing my skill of presentation and learning more and more about myself. Because I completely forgot I was on the Apprentice. I was interviewed for the Apprentice at one point in time, way back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I actually forgot all about that because you're talking about when Apprentice first started, maybe I don't know, about 15 years ago. So it's taken me on a journey through the whole process, but it's also let me learn a lot more about myself. And where I thought I was very Monte Carlo or bust, as the expression, I'm actually quite risk adverse. I like to plan to make sure whatever I'm after is just a case of formality almost to get there, because I understand exactly how to get there and to get the result I want. So it's just how quick I can get there. So I realise all these processes are now benefiting me. So talking about this, but benefiting everybody else. The feedback's been absolutely brilliant. I've had people just saying, look, it's nothing related to do with property, what I'm talking about. It's about self-development. It's about millionaire mindset. But I've actually just had them invite me out and just say, just put my house on the market. Well,
Fantastic.
you're not getting anybody else out. Well, no, because we know you. We've done our research already. We know you. We understand you. We understand the way you think, and we think you're the right person for us.
Brilliant. Okay, so Mike, thanks very much for joining us. So your objection is, and for people that don't know Mike is an exceptional consultant in the industry. He's also a founder of Agents Together, which is doing exceptional stuff. So, Mike, why should I buy now? As it looks likely the recession will deepen, unemployment will rise, and house prices will have to adjust downwards. And after you answer that, I'm going to go back to Jim because he's got a question on booming. And then we've also had a question on lettings. And as you are the lettings guru as well, I'm going to ask you that question. Okay, so that would teach you for putting in a question. So thank you.
I was only searching for Match of the Day on my phone, and suddenly I came across you lot. No, seriously. I thought I'd put that objection out there. As you know, I'm not actually a hands-on estate agent anymore, but I do have 850 clients who are. And my answer to it is quite simply that I don't see house buying and selling as a short-term decision. And I think the statistic is now that the average length of time that somebody is in a house is 21 years, which is a bit of a concern for the industry. But nevertheless, if that's the case, anybody thinking of moving now is going to be in that property or whatever for some period of time. I don't think any of us know exactly what's going to happen to house prices and things over the course of the next 6 months to 12 months. Clearly, we're seeing an enormous amount of demand at the moment. That demand is largely being met by a supply this time. Normally, we have supply here and demand here, or vice versa. And we're not actually seeing that. It's much more evenly matched this time, which means that transactions are happening. Prices are always a factor, but in the scheme of things, if you're going to be in your house for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you know, along that journey, if you look at any period of time, and of course I've been around longer than most of you guys, and house prices have done that over the last decades, tens of decades. But during that journey, the line, there's been ups and downs. So if anybody's thinking of doing a decision because they want to make money in the next 12 months, I would suggest they keep their money under the mattress. But if you look at it from the point of view of why do people move, and more people are moving because it's a home. I appreciate there are investors, but they're a slightly different category. But most people are moving because it's where they want to live. Actually, they want to get on with their lives. But there is a demand there. It was there pre-COVID. We were seeing a buoyant market. It's certainly there now, being fueled, in my view, wrongly by the government with the stamp duty reduction, because I think that is likely to concertina activity. And, I have a long history in this industry that says every time the government's got involved with some short-term measure, it does tend to fall off a cliff a little bit afterwards. But actually, I think they may well change stamp duty between now and March. I've got a feeling that we may well get to March, and we may well see some reform of stamp duty going forward, which might alter the playing field. But the underlying reasons why people move house is still there. Interest rates are low. They need that extra bedroom because they've got an extra key or whatever it might be. And so I think the medium-term prospects, and we're still not building enough houses. Despite the fact we built 240,000 in the last year, that is not meeting demand either. So the underlying position is that the market will remain pretty strong.
Okay, brilliant. And some fella called Andy Overman says, why buy now? Rates are low. How much will you lose in rent between now and the right time? Who's to say the government won't extend the stamp duty holiday? If your ideal home is in the market now, it will be in 6 months. The market is a cycle. There will always be ups and downs. In 2008, people held off, and by 2009-10, were paying 10 to 15% annual inflation in purchase prices. And also, can I mention Arsenal's win? So, Andy, if you were listening and tuned in at the right time, you would have heard my praise for some team in South London. Sarah, thanks very much for joining us and for tagging in Brian. If there's anybody else, please tag in your colleagues, share it. Give all these guys who are giving up their time on a Sunday rather than being on the golf course or walking beaches or watching Watford videos reminiscing about John Barnes. Give them some likes and some shares as well, please. Okay.
Did Watford have some good times then?
Yeah, they did. Graham Taylor was a phenomenal manager. Okay, John Barnes was a great player. And I think there was some fella called Jenkins. He was a very good player, but I can't remember his first name. There you go.
Ross.
There you go. So, there you go. But not as good as Clive Allen, who got 49 goals in one season. So Zoe asked the question. So we asked the question as well, and actually this is related. So the future of a sales market, now that evictions have been extended, buy-to-let landlords with tenants in situ are stuffed, and what about mortgage companies? Won't they be reluctant to lend for buy-to-lets? What do you think about that side of the market, gentlemen? I don't mind who goes first.
Absolutely. I think we're causing a huge problem for ourselves. We're focusing on the minority that might actually that don't want to pay their rent, Here's a classic example. They don't want to pay the rent. They know they can pay the rent, but they don't want to. So they're focusing on the minority here. And what's happening now is the majority that actually are wanting housing, and possibly vulnerable people, as a result, we're having to take the decision to actually ensure that they have guarantors with them now, which they'll never ever get. So we can no longer house these people, which is a lot more than the people at the other end.
Okay, Mike.
I think, we've got the current situation obviously coming out supposedly out of COVID with extensions on the ability to evict and all of this sort of stuff. But actually, if you look at the political situation with this government and the whole lettings market, this has actually been the last few years, in so much that this government has an agenda which wants to see home ownership more prevalent than renting, and there are also, of course, an awful lot of votes amongst tenants rather than landlords. So there's something like 2 million landlords and 8 million tenants. So if you were going for a vote, where would you go? And I think there is an element of that in the background to all of this.
Indeed.
Clearly, what's happening here is unhelpful and unattractive to landlords. But of course, it applies largely only in situations where you've got a problem. Because if you've got a tenancy that's running A-OK and whatever, then actually eviction and these sort of things don't become an issue. But I'm afraid around the edges, I think there's a little bit of shooting in the foot here. But hopefully it's a relatively small part of the market. But I think the general political picture is one where they want to encourage first-time buyers, which is why we've seen Help to Buy and various initiatives, and stamp duty, for example. I think it has been a situation where the 3% additional stamp duty on investment, second home purchases, designed to try and even up the equation, because it was before that a situation where actually first-time buyers would always lose out to an investor, because an investor in theory could pay more money for a property than a first-time buyer could because of the circumstances. They were getting tax relief on their mortgages, whereas a first-time buyer won't. So the whole thing has been, over the last, say, 4 or 5 years, has shifted to try and level out the playing field. It's in danger now of shifting too far the other way.
Okay, brilliant. Luke, any thoughts on it?
I think there's opportunities for your own lettings business, because with landlords, it's top of mind at the minute, isn't it? Rent arrears, even if they're not suffering from rent arrears, they're seeing it in the news. Maybe they've got landlord friends. And are you building that into your marketing about how you're looking after your portfolio for your landlords, and are you communicating to that on a regular basis to your existing portfolio? So where you're talking about, so if you have got particularly low rent arrears, or if you have got zero casualties as a result of COVID, those catching conversations that you have with your existing portfolio, are you relaying that information? Because most landlords know another landlord, and it only takes for them to, now that they're able to go out to have a pint or to have a meal, or my tenant's not paying, or our agency that we're with, that they're not experiencing any problems. So are we relaying those bits of information? But also, I think, again, comes back to that every market creates that market. So a landlord that is looking to sell, if you've got, like Mike said, if you've got a really well set up tenancy where they're not in arrears, and it could be that perhaps you've got a house share and they're all public sector workers, that's a really good HMO in this market, because there's probably no greater job security than someone that works in the public sector at the minute, potentially. So with the stamp duty holidays, buying it as a going concern for another landlord, because we're seeing more and more investors return to the market. Is there not opportunities there where landlords still do want to sell, but they're just selling it on as a going concern? Don't worry about selling it as vacant possession. Look at tapping your existing investors and keeping hold of that business long term.
Yeah, agreed.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mike.
There is always a market. There is always a market. You've just got to find the angle. And we're in a period probably where capital growth isn't happening. I mean, we talked earlier about will the house prices go down? I think they might. They're moving around a little bit. there might be a slight fall, but I certainly don't see any form of wholesale collapse. But by the same token, in the immediate short term, I don't see house prices taking off and flying either. But that's all part of the decision maker. If you're an investor, are you investing for capital growth? Are you investing for a yield, for a return? A combination of both. It's not a short-term decision. The cost of getting into the investment, getting out of the investment, is too great for it to be a short-term investment. But as a long-term investment, it can be fabulous.
Okay, brilliant. So thanks very much, Zoe. If you're watching now or on replay, I hope that answers your question. Jim, we want to answer your final question. And you talked about the Bruce brothers and booming. So what was your question on that?
Absolutely. It's ironic. They could be the saviour of the portals with the advent. And the great thing is, I mean, you could call them all the names of the day for what you want, but they're great at disrupting a sector and actually moving it on and developing it. And I think this is a golden opportunity for what their proposition could be booming to actually take advantage of that. And show possibly a new way in how to do this, and so we don't rely too much on Rightmove and Zoopla and prime location. I've not seen much of it just now, but I know it's going to be disruptive. I could bet that. Okay, so I had a demonstration of it on Friday. What I would say to people is make up your own mind. Okay. Reach out to them, have that demonstration, see what you think yourself. Whatever you think of the Bruce brothers, rightly or wrongly, okay, you have to make your own decision. What is best for your business, but more importantly, what is best for your consumers and the customers out there? They are the most important people in there. So, if you don't want to do business with them because of what they've done in the past, then that's absolutely fine. That's your decision. But the question I would ask you is, what is best for the consumer and what is best for the customer, and also what is actually best for your business? And I think if it was me, I'd be open-minded and have that demonstration and then make your own mind up. Mike, you got anything to add to that?
No, as you know, Stephen, I saw this a few weeks ago. I am under an NDA, so I've got to be a little bit careful about what I say. It's different, and I agree with what you've just said, that people should look at it on its merits, not necessarily on its ownership or present ownership, because it will. That ownership will dissipate, obviously, with shares and bits and pieces, and look at it on its merits. It's becoming a very crowded space at the moment, with lots of different models coming in. There's at least, I guess, half a dozen new portals sort of launching or just launched or about to launch. So they won't all survive. And I think agents are well advised to really think about where they're going to put their eggs in what baskets, because I think scattergunning is not the approach. I think when COVID first happened, a lot of the dialogue I was having was people actually cutting down the number of portals they were on. This was at the time when Rightmove was upsetting everybody with their with their sort of discussions on pricing and whatever. Rightmove have held their nerve. And whatever, it'll be interesting to see whether they can continue to hold their nerve as those discounts come to an end, and the same with Zoopla and on the market. If they can continue to hold their nerve when the marketplace starts to level out a little bit more over the next 3 or 4 months. A very interesting time. And I think booming will be a success. How much, I don't know. It's undoubtedly got some fantastic technology behind it. It's a question of whether the proposition grabs you or not.
Fair enough. Luke, have you seen it yet?
No, I've not. But I've not got an issue with, obviously, the owners or the Bruce brothers, because I think they've done what Amazon did to the retail sector, to the estate agency sector. They've really made us up our game, and we were getting complacent, whether or not you like that comment or not. Estate agents were getting complacent, or the majority were getting complacent, where they weren't innovating, they weren't giving good customer service. And ultimately, it was going to happen. I think they just brought it forward, and it's made agencies actually have a business and be able to thrive. I think fantastic. Without them, I don't think many agencies would be doing as well as what they're doing today, because it has really given them a massive slap in the face and a wake up call.
Good, Mike.
Yeah, just very quickly on the purple bricks thing. I mean, I did an MBA 20 years ago. My research was about the internet and what its effect on it, and it basically predicted the arrival of somebody like purple bricks. It took longer to come. But the problem with the sector is a lot of estate agents blame purple bricks for the fact that they're not getting a very good fee for their services. Well, to my knowledge, purple bricks have never gone into any estate agency office and put a gun to those estate agents' head and told them to cut their fees. And the industry has got to get better, and this is Luke's point about improvement or whatever, at putting across their services, their products, their fee, whatever it is, and differentiating. And it hasn't, and therefore the industry ended up pulling one lever, and that lever was fee or price. And that's not the only lever to pull. And I think we will emerge from the whole COVID scenario in whenever period of time with a paradigm shift. A lot of the changes that were happening already are now happening faster and and bigger and whatever. I expect to see a smaller industry in terms of number of players in it. There may be a lot more individual self-employed people, but they're a smaller market in terms of the overall people. But those people will be earning more money, they'll be performing better, fees will be better, and service will be better. So I think we're really just at the start of a very exciting phase.
Thank you. And I've got Peter Knight of a Property Academy as my guest on Thursday. And I know Peter conducts year in, year out surveys. And one of the things is they ask about fees. And actually, fees is not normally in the top 5 of why I choose an estate agent. So actually, it's fees are subject in up here of an agent's mindset rather than that. And you're right, at the moment, or not at the moment, it's been going on for years. It's like a race to the bottom for some agents. And totally agree, Mike. It's about differentiating, demonstrating your add value, demonstrating you're the most skilled negotiator, and you can put more money in the vendor's pocket for their biggest tax-free asset. Mr. Sinclair.
Just on the whole fee thing, it's because it's the easiest thing. You haven't got to put too much brain power behind it, have you? If the customer doesn't want to, I'll just cut my fee. You haven't got to put the brain power. You haven't got to put the effort behind it. I mean, when our valuers come to me and say, I lost that because of fee, it's not because of fee. It's because you didn't do a good enough job in demonstrating that we're the better agent through what we provide.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it isn't. And I firmly believe it isn't because of fee. If you use all the tools in the toolbox that we can provide to our clients, then we should never lose a listing on fee. You've got to learn from each opportunity and each setback to readjust how you then present to the next client.
Yeah,
you see that time and time again when you think about it. Luke, exactly what you said. It's demonstrating you're worth that. When you're consistently getting 20, 30, 40, 10,000 more than what our home report value is, you're consistently demonstrating to the customer that you're worth what you are. You're basically, for want of a better phrase, I usually say to people, you're getting us for nothing, and you're getting cash back in exercise. That's ultimately it. And there is huge opportunities on the horizon. Like Michael said, COVID has taught us a lot of things. One thing it's taught me is I can sell houses without actually anybody walking in the door. I've been doing that. I'm remarkably doing live broadcasts for drone footage and home tours, and people from 60, 70 miles away and down south as well. I've just been making offers way over the home report value, buying the property and then moving into them.
Which is great. Jim, Michael, very grateful for your time on a Sunday. Thanks very much. Appreciate you joining us. Have a lovely Sunday, and thank you. Very kind of you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
It's magic. Can you believe I've managed technology to do that? And Andy Overman's not here. How impressed are you, hey?
I know, but this is what Michael was saying. He was saying people are advancing a lot earlier than what they are now with COVID. And you're living proof of that, Stephen. Your technology skills You would have been another 5 years to reach this level, and you've done it in a matter of weeks. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. And just think, in 2 weeks' time, the football season's back with us as well.
Good. So we can be talking about seven
So,
twos and stuff like that, and have a Mickey taken, go
oh
again.
dear,
Can't
yeah,
can't wait. Can't wait. So
yeah.
what have you got planned this week then?
So we've got induction training. So we've got a couple of people returning from furlough. Now that their children have gone back to school. I mean, Leicester goes back to school earlier than the rest of the country, so some of the children went back on Thursday. I think the secondary schools do go back on Tuesday though, next week. So we've got two returning from furlough, and then we've got the three new starters. So we've got obviously to teach them all about Buddy, the new CRM that we went live with on the 6th of April. Um, and the kind of new processes that we have in place, because again it's a different business from when the people on furlough were last working in the business, and also the people coming into the business, it's going to be completely foreign to them. So we've got two kind of full days of that, and then it will be continuing that with the additional new starters on the Thursday, Friday of this week, and before we know it, it's the weekend again. So busy,
Yeah.
busy, busy week this week.
Time flies. So a couple of things on that, and I'd like to come back to what you do for induction course, and I'm grateful for your time as well, because I know you're really busy and you've got things to do. So I won't keep you for much longer. But one of the things that you did last week was with a school doing a
Yes.
Matterport tour, I believe,
Yeah.
to help demonstrate to, for parents, I think more importantly, and actually the kids when they're coming
Yeah.
into secondary school or primary schools, this is what the new normal is in your school, which I
Yeah.
think is absolutely incredible. And for anybody watching here, I would be approaching all your local schools and offering that service. And I'll come back to that in a sec, but also bringing that forward to your furloughed staff returning. Some of them are going to be very nervous about what the new office looks like. And actually, if you could do a Matterport tour or a video of your office and show
Yeah.
it to them before they come back, and maybe your new starters as well, is that something people will feel more comfortable with? And the reason why I say that is on Tuesday, I've got another guest called Andy McNamee, and he ran 66 ultra marathons in 66 days, despite breaking his Achilles after 2 days. And we're going to talk about uncertainty. We're going to talk about stress. We're going to talk about the wisdom of Winnie the Pooh and how to be like Superman and Wonder Woman. But there's going to be people out there that are extremely nervous about coming back to school or coming back to work, and what a fantastic idea that is. So for that's got to be worth loads of likes and tags and shares and hearts for Luke and what he's doing. It's amazing, brilliant stuff.
Yeah, I mean the school thing. It's been a challenge to try and get into some of the schools. We've got a couple more that want the Matterport doing, but it's gone down really well. But also for the children, because there is just a lot of anxiety, pressure. But you imagine the little 4-year-olds that don't know where they're going to be going into this big building, and yet they can sit at home with mum and dad, and tell them, show them round. Look, this is where you come in. This is going to be your classroom. Oh, I want you to tell me what's on the wall. Will you when you go in on the first day, will you tell me what that says on the wall there? So at least then they've got some kind. Oh, my mum says I've got to go and check upon what's on the wall here, miss, and those kind of things, just to try and make it easy. Because once they've seen it, they're going to think, yeah, I already know my way around. So, and I think it's as much for the parents at the minute as well, because they don't know what it's like. They don't know what the school have done. I mean, the teachers are working absolutely flat out, doing the best that they can in order to make it as safe as they can. So again, I think for them, fair play and thank you very much for all the teachers up and down the country for what they've been doing, because it's not been an easy ride for anyone, and they've got ultimately thousands of customers, i.e. students, coming back into school, and it's not easy for them as well, because they've got their own concerns and worries, and they've got to follow the government guidance, and we know that some of the government guidance is a little bit woolly and a little bit washy and last minute, so that I think if they've come under unnecessary scrutiny, then I think we need to not give them such a hard time, because like with our industry, we know what it's like. We got told that we could reopen in 24 hours. Those kind of things. Leicester got told it had to go into a lockdown, and we didn't know what that meant as a business, and we had to try and get clarification on it. Just because they're a teacher and they work in the public sector doesn't mean they've got a magic wand and direct links to Boris and his aides. They're treated as much as the same as us. So, but if you do get an opportunity to do either a video or a Matterport tour, I think there's other ones. Giraffe 360 is another one. Then go in and do it. The school will love you. Your local audience will love you for it, and it's about being part of that community.
Brilliant. Well, look, I think with next week, if you're around next week, we'll talk about induction, because I'm grateful for your time and I'm grateful for everybody watching this morning. So thank you all. Thanks for your time. If you're watching it on replay, thank you very much. Have a lovely Sunday. Have a really great week. Join me on Tuesday for Andy McNamee, and on Thursday for Peter Knight, and the following week, Damien Hughes from High Performance Podcast is going to join me. So if you've got any questions on stress, uncertainty, please write them in the comment section, and we'll try to get your questions answered. Jim and Mike, thanks very much for being impromptu guests. Really appreciate it. Luke, once again, thank you very much for giving up your Sunday. Andy Overman, enjoy your walk on the beach with your adopted puppy. And thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Cheers, everybody. Bye.